Alright, I'm not sure how many people I lost because I had some internet instability suddenly struck a blow and took me out. But I'm back. We'll see how much further I can get. I feel like I have another hour or so before I really got to get back to other things. I am going to reset to the kitchen dining room. I wish there was a way in YouTube I could easily like put this and the other one together instead of having kind of part 2 just ending like that abruptly and then part 3 picking up, but I don't think I can, so I just gotta roll with it. Just got to keep on carrying on. Anyway, if you stuck with me through my 10-minute little outage, thanks, but I understand if you didn't, and hopefully if you didn't, you're catching up at some later time in audio or video form. Okay. Kitchen dining room. We are on level 3. They're calling tier 4, aka level 3 of the pyramid. This room appears to be an abandoned kitchen and dining room combination. The cupboards, table, and chairs are covered with a thin layer of dust. Near the table, 2 large snakes with brown and yellow scales are coiled around the body of a woman wearing a rabbit mask. So the 2 snakes are rock pythons. Frederick Rourke in the chat. Don't feed the gremlins after midnight. Yes, and apparently don't let them drink Sprite either, if the commercial is to be believed. So we got 2 rock pythons. If their bite attack is successful, they coil around their victims and constrict in the same round for 2 to 8 points of damage. Thereafter, the constriction automatically hits each round. Around the neck of the dead Sanidician is a necklace worth 700 gold pieces. Concealed in her robes is a full water bottle and small pouch of food. So you get a little more food, get some water. Not game changers in any sense. We have a living room. The room looks like a living room. It contains wall hangings and an ornate divans. There are several pieces of sculpture in the room, as well as an iron statue of a warrior on each side of the doorway just inside the room. Everything is covered by a thin layer of dust. Statues are actually living iron statues. They will attack if the party enters the room and allows the door to swing shut. While the door is held or jammed open, the statues will not attack. So it's almost a trap of sorts, right? If you keep the door open, they won't attack. If you let the door close, they'll attack. Not dissimilar in a way from the trap, if we remember from the very beginning with the gas, right? It kind of, if you leave the doors open, you can essentially make it through without much difficulty, but if you let the doors close, it's trouble. If a statue is hit by a non-magical metal weapon, the attacker must save versus spells. Failure means the weapon sticks to the body of the iron statue and cannot be pulled away until the statue is destroyed. Living non-iron statues are not affected by sleep spells. So that's a wrinkle. But you're saved if you have magical weapons, and you've had the chance to get a couple of magical weapons, at least so far. Hidden guard room. 4 humans wearing stylized rat masks and red robes trimmed with rat fur leap to their feet and look at you. In the northeast corner of the room are stairs going down. The 4 men are actually were-rats. These lycanthropes are disguised as Sanidicians so that they can safely rob the citizens when they get a chance. If threatened, the were-rats will change into giant rat form and fight or run. Like other lycanthropes, were-rats in animal form can only be hit by silvered or magical weapons. They have a small chest with 2,000 silver pieces and 4 gems worth a total of 700 gold pieces. The stairs end in a bricked-up wall unless the expanded adventure is being played. Haha. So there you go. Our first clue towards the expanding the adventure. It's interesting. You wonder in a place like this why monsters are just, these were-rats are here just stealing from the citizenry. Kind of for what purpose? There's nothing to buy. I like to think of reasons in my game for why loot as a thing might have such an attraction for creatures. Because at least then it makes more sense why you have... dragons kind of have that built in, right? Where dragons have this, at least in the kind of Tolkien sense, have this desire to build up hordes. Or I guess that's all not just in Tolkien, but in sort of their, I guess, traditional Western sense of hordes of dragon treasure. And so they just kind of build them to keep them and look at them. One might wonder why were-rats are doing that. But I suppose one could kind of come up with reasons. Consultation room. The room is paneled with wood and a dusty carpet covers the floor. A large, heavy desk sits in the center of the room. Several wooden chairs are grouped north of the desk. Behind the desk is a large plush chair, while behind the chair on the south wall is a mounted lion's head. 4 large painted urns stand in the corners of the room. Finally, on both sides of the north doorway are stone pedestals with stone statues of winged beasts with claws, fangs, and horns. The 2 statues are gargoyles. If the party is expecting gargoyles when they see the statues, roll initiative normally. If not, the party will be surprised. The gargoyles will attack as soon as the party enters the room. They can only be hit with magical weapons and are not affected by sleep or charm spells. The desk has 3 drawers and a locked cabinet. Inside the cabinet are 2,000 electrum pieces, a mace +1, and a poison potion. Hidden in the cushion of the plush chair are 18 gems, each worth 100 gold pieces. The urns and the lion head contain nothing of value. So it's almost, again, like the gargoyles are essentially a trap, but there is some nice loot in there if you can get in those spaces and you clear out the gargoyles. We have a pit trap. The floor section conceals a hidden 10-foot deep pit filled with spikes. The DM should roll for each character entering the area. The trap is triggered on a roll of 1 or 2 on a 1d6. Characters falling into the pit will take 2 to 12 points of damage. Remember that Demetrius does not know about this pit. Just a reminder that, if he's coming with you, he knows the layout, he knows where he's going, he does not know where all the traps are. I think there's something. Oh, I think the other thing to keep a note with, with a lot of old school traps is it's not just whoever steps on them triggers it. It's a chance. It's kind of gives some nice flavor, and of course, you never know if you're truly safe or if it just so happened you didn't set off the trap. We have a main entry chamber. The high arched ceiling of this room is supported by a double row of pillars. Each pillar is carved into a statue of a king or queen of Senidicea. A series of mosaic pictures decorate the walls of the room. These start in the northeast corner and continue clockwise around the room. In the center of the north wall is a pair of huge stone doors. At the base of the double doors, the floor is partially covered with sand. The mosaics show scenes from the history of Senidicea. From the northwest corner of the mosaic show a tribe of squat, heavy-browed humanoids wielding crude stone weapons, worshipping a lizard-headed god. A large band of tall, black-haired people battle the humanoids to take over their hunting grounds. A village rises over the scene of the battle. In the arid lands around the village are fields of grain and vast herds of cattle and sheep. A great leader arises in time of need and gathers the villagers into an army that destroys an enemy army of snake-headed humanoids. The victorious leader is crowned king, thus founding the line of the rulers of Senidicea. The stone city of Senidicea is built on the site where the village stood. Scenes of the splendor of the kingdom at its height. The births of King Alexander and Queen Zenobia. The Great Pyramid is built. Slaves digging under the pyramid uncover the foundations of a prehistoric temple. The death of King Alexander and Queen Zenobia and their burial in the pyramid. The worship of the old gods Gorm, Usamigaras, and Madarua is replaced by the worship of a large humanoid with many tentacles. Life becomes a year-round carnival for the Senidicians. All Senidicians are now masked. The Senidicians meet a barbaric, golden-haired people, the ancestors of the Heldan tribe mentioned in Module X1. The final picture is not a mosaic. It is a crudely painted sketch that shows the tribesmen looting Senidicea. All right, so there you get the characters can get a backstory in pictures, which is nice. I don't think they put that in the actual module itself. It would have been cool, but I don't think they do. I don't know why I'm checking. I know they don't. Unless it's in the text somewhere. But yeah, that's neat. There's room on the wall for more pictures, but the space is blank. The huge doors which open outwards are blocked by sand and cannot be opened. There's no treasure here. Secret entrance to the underground city. The secret trapdoor leads to a passageway to the underground city. The party can find this door only if the DM is continuing this adventure past the upper pyramid, aka expanding the adventure. 51. Chapel. This large room is obviously a place of worship. On each side of a broad center aisle are rows of high-backed wooden benches. Narrow aisles along the walls run past ornate mosaics to 2 small fountains set into the walls. Just past the fountains, a large dais fills the southern end of the room. On the dais near a stone altar lie 3 large statues that look like the ones on top of the pyramid. Statues have been toppled from their bases. A man and a woman stand near the toppled statues and talk softly to each other. They wear brightly colored clothing and small bronze fox masks. Both have red hair, and there seems to be a resemblance between them. These are actually werefoxes. So we had were-rats before, now we have were-foxes. Let's see. They are disguised as Cnidaceans to be better able to hunt for treasure and supplies. Were-foxes are a new type of lycanthrope. Hey, more new stuff. Each were-fox can try to charm a person of the opposite sex in one round. This ability is like a charm person spell, but lasts only one day. The were-fox can charm up to 3 times per day. These were-foxes may bargain with the party or try to charm them. They will try to trick the party out of as much treasure and magic as possible. The two will not take risks they can avoid or fight stronger opponents unless forced to. They rely on their wits to survive. If attacked, the two will turn into foxes to fight or escape. If hard-pressed, they may turn back into human form and surrender. The were-foxes will lie, cheat, and bribe the party if necessary to survive. They are carrying 3 pieces of jewelry worth a total of 3,000 gold pieces, a sword +1, let's see, that casts light on command, that's cool, a helm of alignment change, and a potion. So far, they have been afraid to test the potion and don't know what it is. It is a potion of levitation. If forced to fight as humans, the female will use the magical sword in combat. So there we have kind of a nice, again, it could be an ongoing source of intrigue for the party, potentially even another faction almost amongst themselves. I like the idea of were-foxes. That's kind of a cool, different type of were creature, and I guess it was first introduced here. I don't remember seeing much of it, so I guess it really may have never entered the mainstream D&D lore. But if someone has seen were-foxes in other editions or other modules, let me know. We have a trap room. The entire room is a large sunken pool filled with a bubbling liquid. In the center of the room is a box made of stone slabs. The lid of the box is about a foot above the surface of the liquid and is locked with a large iron padlock. The bubbling liquid is acid. Acid. It will destroy any material except stone, and it will do 2d8 points of damage each round to creatures that fall into it. The acid is 6 feet deep. The stone box is on a special pedestal. The pedestal will sink at the rate of 1/2 foot per melee round if any weight is placed on the box. If the weight is removed, the pedestal will rise at the same rate, though never higher than 1 foot above the surface of the acid. Inside the box are 20,000 silver and a clerical scroll of purify food and water and remove curse. So a bunch of money, a couple spells, but you got to figure out how to get it out of the acid without putting more weight on it. So an interesting puzzle. And like a lot of this stuff, right, there's no solution to this puzzle built in. It's just a matter of your players just going to have to figure out how to do it. Figure out some way to do it. There's no solution hinted at or, mentioned, right? Which are kind of the puzzles I like. And those are the puzzles I even really call them puzzles, situations, whatever you want to call it, that I'll feed my players. I don't think of what the solution is. I feel like that's up to them. I just try to think of that in terms of, well, it's not impossible. They just got to figure it out or not, or they can leave it and try to come back with a plan. Abandoned clerical quarters. The room seems oddly damp. A strange, moist odor fills the air. The room contains a low bed, some wooden shelves, and a small chest. The contents of the room seem to shimmer as if seen through clear water or a thick pane of glass. Just inside the doorway is a gelatinous cube. Ha! We hadn't seen this one yet. The party is viewing the room through the gelatinous cube. The monster will move toward and attack the party immediately. Victims hit by the gelatinous cube must make a save versus paralysis or be paralyzed for 2 to 8 turns. Unless the paralysis is removed by a Cure Light Wound spell, the cube may be harmed by fire or weapons, but not by cold or lightning. There is nothing of value in the room. Its rotted contents will crumble when touched. This is a fun kind of surprise encounter. They get to see a gelatinous cube. Gelatinous cubes are always fun. It's one of the most, I guess, characteristic D&D monsters, so it's nice that it makes its appearance. I do like this idea that you could open the door and you're not quite sure why it doesn't seem right, and it's because you have essentially a clear, almost perfectly transparent cube there, and you're just seeing it through its body. That's a fun twist. Storage room. This room is lined racks of wine bottles. Along the west wall are large casks and barrels. Let's see. Several casks have been smashed open and their contents drained. Suddenly, from behind a stack of barrels, a huge bear-like creature with the head of a giant owl appears and staggers towards you. So now we get an owl bear, another very characteristic D&D creature. What it's doing on this low level of this pyramid, we could just have to wonder. But it's here, and it's here for blood. Okay, it is completely drunk and ravenously hungry. If not fed immediately, it will attack. It attacks at -2 to hit, but its morale is 10. If both paws hit the same opponent in one round, the owlbear will hug for an additional 2 to 8 points of damage. The room contains 400 bottles of wine worth a total of 100 gold pieces. So there is one solution there if you don't want to fight the enraged, drunken owlbear, is to throw some food at it, and then I presumably close the door. We've got a party room. 9 men and women in bright costumes and fancy masks are drinking, talking, and dancing in this room. It appears to be a masked ball. Most of the people are dancing as if they had invisible partners. You hear snatches of conversations, most of which make no sense. The people seem to be talking to themselves. These 9 people are Synedicians. As usual, the Synedicians are in their own dream world. They will assume that the characters are merely part of the dream. There's no treasure here. So, just kind of a flavorful RP kind of encounters. The party could try to get something out of these folks who are in their own secret reveries. Crashing walls. A hidden pressure plate in the center of the hall triggers this trap. The walls just ahead of the party crash together and fly apart. The trap is automatically triggered the first time the party passes. This trap has 2 purposes. First, it alerts Darius in room 58 that someone is coming. Second, it will be a dangerous hazard to the party leaving room 56A. I guess that must be beyond it. If everyone forgets it is there. In this case, it is triggered by a D6 roll. The pressure plate will be easily seen and avoided if the characters are looking for it on the way out. Alright, so there you have it. We have the lobby, that's that room 56A. So it's kind of, that trap is really more dangerous when you're coming out. But you get to see it coming in, and hopefully you've taken note of it when you come out. That's kind of tricky, right? Because you see it, but in these kind of games, we're not giving it, a lot of times people will say, I think in 5e or other modern games, like, oh, what's the big deal? My character saw it when we came by. Wouldn't he have just automatically done it again? It's like, no, it's up to you. You as the player have to remember, there was a trap here. I'm not going to trigger it again. Otherwise, I potentially will trigger it again. It's your player memory is being tested, not whatever your character's memory might be. Listen, we're in the lobby now. Excuse me. 10 Synedicians wearing dark robes and masks of fearsome imaginary monsters sit in a circle in this room. They are staring straight ahead, but don't seem to be looking at anything in particular. Okay, they're in their own dream again. These particular Synedicians are in a nightmare world. They will react to party actions and may even attack the party, but the Synedicians will never speak, even if they are wounded. They might scream at random from some unseen terror. The screaming, however, will not match reality. That is, they will not scream if touched or attacked. So, another kind of creepy role-playing type scene. And then we have a gambling room. A dozen brightly robed men and women masked as various animals are playing games of chance. Card games are being played at one table, dice games at another. In the center of the room is a large wheel of fortune. Many silver and gold coins, gems, and pieces of jewelry are changing hands as people win and lose. Because they are sharing a common dream, these Synedicians act more normally than those in the other rooms. They will continue gambling and talking about gambling unless physically attacked. They may even invite the party to join in. If attacked, they will fight back. They will assume that a gang of robbers has broken into the game room to steal their money. Further, if the party tries to take the money without winning it, the cleric and his hobgoblin guards from room 58 will enter through the secret door in the south wall and attack. If the players want to join the games and gamble, the DM may use any simple system to work with the results. Okay, I'm not going to go into the examples, that's fine. A character possessed by Demetrius will go immediately to the proper wall section and start looking for the secret door. He will know his enemy is very close. The gambling room contains 3,000 silver pieces, 5,000 gold pieces, 26 gems, worth a total of 3,100 gold pieces, and 6 pieces of jewelry worth 6,000 gold pieces total. So, quite a bit of loot in here if you can figure out a good, efficient way to get it out of these folks' possession. Because you can't just take it because they will attack you, so you got to figure out how to deal with their dream. And I guess the cleric's chamber, which I presume is you get through the secret door. This is where the evil cleric Darius and his hobgoblin guards hang out. Excuse me. They will be ready for the party to enter. But it's more likely they will come charging out of the room as the party tries to take the treasure. If the party has tried to steal the treasure, the Synedicians in room 57 will join Darius to fight the party. Otherwise, they will do nothing unless attacked. The forces of Darius include Darius himself, who's got the following spells. He's got Cure Light Wounds, Light, Bless, Silence, 50-foot radius, Striking, and Cause Serious Wounds. I think it's the exact same as his brother. 6 Hobgoblins. Let's see. They the DM may adjust this number as desired. I guess if you feel like it's not enough of a challenge or too much of a challenge. Maybe just roll a 2d6 or something, or excuse me, or some other dice to make it random. And we have the 12 Sanidicians. And he's got some suggested spells for Darius. Okay. And then, yeah, that's it. Darius, can use his spells. They suggest which ones they're going to use. There's nothing of interest in the room besides Darius and his homeboys. So here we get to part 5, expanding the adventure. I'm losing my voice for some reason. The basic pyramid adventure can be continued. This section outlines the lower pyramid levels and the underground city. Suggestions for further adventure are also given. The DM will find the expert rules helpful if the adventure is expanded. I just muted myself for a moment to try to get some of the whatever's in my throat out of my throat. The lower levels have new and more dangerous monsters, as well as larger treasures. As before, enough information is given in the encounter keys so that these can be used. Of all the characters' low levels, these monsters will be very dangerous. If most of the characters are first or second level, they should adventure here only with a larger party than normal, and should expect to lose characters often. The DM should think about providing enough supporting characters so the player characters have a chance. So this might be where you say, okay, we got to lean on some of these faction folk to adventure down here. Only key figures of the rooms are described so the DM can gain experience in setting up encounters. On tier 6, the room titles will suggest what type of details to add. On tier 7 through 9, all the rooms are cave-like chambers with paintings on the walls and ceilings. The paintings are described, and DM may add more details if desired. Tier 10, Zargon's lair, is described in detail. So here we get some text on how to design an encounter. To design an encounter, decide why a monster was there. For example, see the Hellhounds on tier 7, room 79, which we'll see when we get there, but just assume that we've looked at it. Since the priests of Zargon often take prisoners down to room 100, and since there are trolls nearby in room 78, the Hellhounds could be guarding the way down for the priests. Now, a reason for the pile of copper is needed. One reason, the Hounds will let anyone who throws a copper piece on the pile go down the ladder without a fight. The special magic items are buried and hidden from sight, though the party will see the glow if a detect magic is cast on the pile. An encounter script is made up as follows. As the party enters, they see the pit, the ladder, the large reddish dogs, and the pile of copper. The magic's well buried. The Hellhounds sit and grin when they see the party, but remain watchful. Normal initiative if the party attacks. No Hellhound attack if the party is surprised. They are waiting for the party to throw some coins on the pile and go down, just like everyone else does. It is important that the dogs see the party and sit before the party has a chance to react. This is a signal that something weird is going on. If the party doesn't catch on quick, the DM should help them with suggestive growls and whines. The dogs will start to get nervous, then suspicious, then will start stalking the party, growling softly, hackles raised. If no one catches on and the party stays in the room or tries to go down, the Hellhounds will attack. Their true nature will become obvious as soon as they breathe. There are many other ways to set up this encounter, but the basic idea is to give the monster a reason to be in the area. If there are no monsters, you might give clues to nearby monsters, tracks, smashed furnishings, bones, and so on. I mean, that's kind of really good advice, right? Why are the monsters here? Now, granted, we can go back and look at and say, okay, why is the owlbear in the wine closet? Why is the some of these other monsters in there? Why are the white apes in that other room? And I think that what we'd have to divide up is what the monster is and the purpose, right? So Hellhounds are here. Why they're Hellhounds as opposed to some other kind of mundane hound as opposed to something else, you can come up with a reason, but that being said, they have a purpose in the room. The white apes, we could say, well, why are they white apes? Well, whatever, but they have a purpose in that room. The owlbear has a purpose in that room. And that purpose not only gives you as the GM something to work with just in terms of thematically describing and narrating everything, but it also gives a clue as to what the players can do. In the owlbear instance, it's been drinking all this booze, it's hungry and it's thirsty. And if you get the clue that here it is going through drinking stuff, maybe you say, oh, well, maybe we can feed it. That's a way for you to get out. In this case, the pile of coins, the fact that the hounds don't attack right away but seem to be waiting for something, gives the party some clues to help them. They may not get it, and then there's combat as normal, but you're building up this context, and then not only can you use that stuff with, hey, the pile of coins, the hellhounds seem to be somewhat domesticated and kind of waiting. We don't know they're hellhounds, but we know that they're sitting, they're kind of waiting. Put it together, even if we don't get it afterwards, it can, if it comes out, if that information comes out, we can go, oh, that's, now I get it, right? It makes sense. So that's really good advice. Tiers 6 through 10 were dug after the main pyramid was built. Tier 6 housed slave workers and their guards. The lower tiers were to be a series of chambers showing the journey of the spirit after death. Each room was to have a painting of another stage in the journey. The final tier, where Zargon now lives, was to have a painting of the Sanidician paradise. The painting was never made. The Sanidicians do not usually venture into the lower tiers. These are the haunts of Zargon, the tentacle monster the Sanidicians worship. Sanidicians found on these tiers will most likely be Zargon's prey or priests of Zargon. And then we have some wandering monsters. Same check, same frequency, potential frequency. For the lower pyramid, the DM should make up his or her own wandering monster tables. Typical encounters might include spiders, snakes, living statues, undead, priests of Zargon, or the new creatures given below. Tier 6 excuse me, equals dungeon level 4. Tier 7 to 8 equal dungeon level 5. Tiers 9 to 10 equal dungeon level 6. And the reason why those dungeon levels are important is because they really, if you go back to BX, probably the expert level rules in this point, you can use those. It has random encounters for each, there's per dungeon level. So this is a way for you to look at those levels and kind of what stuff is there as a basis. That's how they're balanced, right? For these levels of the dungeon, okay, I should be looking at kind of what kind of stuff is on dungeon level 6. So that's why those levels are important. Okay, so we have... So these are very much in much more abbreviated form, because here we're supposed to be taking over and creating our own potential box text and other things. I guess I'm just going to... I really just want to riff through mostly to Zargon, so let's see if I can get through this in the next 20-ish or so minutes. So I'm not going to cover all of these, but we get just much more condensed. Here's just the room, and if there's a monster, whatever the treasure is, right? So we get a little bit of a description, or just if there's features in the room, if there's a monster, if there's treasure. So almost bullet points for each one of the rooms. I'm just going to scoot on through. So we get those for all these tiers. We get to finally get to tier 10. The Lair of Zargon. We've got a nice picture of Zargon. He's got, seems like a Harryhausen kind of monster. He's got a single horn, a single eye, a large mouth, kind of a humanoid-ish torso, and then tons of tentacles, and he seems to be sitting in some goop. Lair of Zargon. Sliding into a large, slime-covered chamber, you find that the floor is littered with bones. Suddenly you hear a rustling noise from the north wall. There, a huge humanoid figure rises from the slime. Standing 15 feet tall, its head is that of a giant lizard. A black, 2-foot-long horn curves upward above its single red eye, and sharp teeth fill its mouth. Instead of arms, the creature has 6 tentacles, 3 on each side of its body. These end in razor-sharp talons. Instead of legs, the creature slithers towards you on 6 more powerful tentacles. No Fun Allowed says, you gotta love those original monster arts. Yep, that's exactly. It does definitely gets the point across. This creature is Zargon. AC 0, 12 hit dice, 80 hit points, 30-foot movement. Number of attacks, 7. Woo! So it's got all those tentacles, and I guess tentacles, and then I guess a bite attack? It doesn't really say. It just says 6 times 1 to 8 / 3d8. Oh, okay, so I guess 6 attacks at 1d8, and then 1 attack at 3d8. I'm guessing the 3d8 we could say is probably its bite, and then the 1d8 ones are those tentacles. It will try to attack and slay any party members it can catch, striking with its claws and biting. The party can climb back up the slide with difficulty if Zargon lets them. So we didn't catch that, but it was kind of in the description, right? They presumably have slid into this room from above. Although Zargon is ancient, it is no god. It is a cunning creature that discovered its, quote, godhood, unquote, makes it easier to get victims. Zargon was worshipped by primitive peoples in early times, but retreated underground when the primitives were wiped out by the ancestors of the Cynidicians. Zargon remained in a strange hibernation for many years. By chance, the Cynidicians built the pyramid on the spot where Zargon's original shrine stood, and the later digging of the Cynidician slaves awakened the creature. Zargon can regenerate its body as long as its great horn is not destroyed. This is kind of like Conan the Destroyer. That, I forget, the horned god, and he had to tear the horn off to defeat it. Spoilers from Conan the Destroyer from 1980-something. Oz RPG 598 says, hey, your camera quality is really good, crystal clear. Well, great, thanks. It's a Logitech something or other. It's just a 1080p camera, but it does the job. So Zargon needs its horn to regenerate. Let's see. Regeneration from the bear horn may take a number of years, but otherwise Zargon is likely to be at full strength whenever the party encounters it. Zargon's horn can only be destroyed by being cast into a volcanic fire, like the Eye of Zargon in the underground city, Area Q. Zargon will not regenerate during an encounter. It regrows too slowly for that. So you can defeat it, but not destroy it. And to destroy it, you need to take the horn, throw it, cast it like the eye, like the ring of Sauron, the one ring into volcanic fires. In the slime of Zargon's lair is the treasure it has gathered. Here we go. 58,000 silver pieces, 9,000 platinum pieces, chainmail +2, a shield +2, a spear +2, a cursed scroll turns the reader into a miniature of Zargon, 3 feet tall, without the power of regeneration, AC 9, hit points as the character, but you do get 7 attacks. A wand of illusion with 7 charges, and elven cloak and boots. Sorry, it's kind of funny that you get cursed to become a mini-me of Zargon. Oz RPG 5598 says, would you ever consider reading Star Wars lore? That would be amazing. I would. I mean, I would probably, given that I mostly do role-playing game stuff, I would probably see what kind of adventures there are for Star Wars. But I do have the West End Games version of Star Wars that I'd like to do on the channel at some point. So yeah, I might get around to doing some Star Wars stuff. I don't know if I would just read just Star Wars fiction. I kind of have very mixed feelings over the fiction over the however many years they've been doing it. But yeah, I would definitely do some Star Wars stuff. Got to spread my wings. I do have other things besides D&D type stuff that I'm into. Hoosier Larry says, only 80 hit points of 96. I never liked how few hit points these old school creatures had. I always gave at least the max hit points on a D8. Yeah. I guess you could, you could probably tune it up. I mean, it does have AC 0, so it's going to be hard to hit. And I'm not sure what level you're supposed to get to when you're over here. But there's going to be a good chance you're whiffing a lot, and it's getting a ton of attacks. But yeah, you could, obviously it's something you could play with. I'm not someone who loves to do I'm just going to adjust their hit points on the fly, because I think that's kind of cheap. And I've hated it as a player when it feels like you're doing damage, you're making progress, and suddenly your progress seems to slow down, and it's because the GM is adding hit points behind the screen. For people who say they'll never know, you can get a sense of it, especially if your GM starts off, giving good descriptions of what whittling down its hit points seems like, and then you're doing the same kind of damage, and yet you're not really whittling as much. It's not as transparent or as ingenious a hidden method of manipulating the combat as folks, I feel like, paint it on the internet. But yeah, you could definitely add some more hit points if you want to, or just roll. I like to just roll the dice and see what comes up. And with Zargon, it could be interesting because you can defeat it but not destroy it. If you do end up being down here for a while, Zargon could be reborn, and you could have fun with what the cultists do and the rituals and their things about, Zargon will return, or Zargon will return soon, or however they want to phrase it. And what do you do if you realize that Zargon is coming back? But there's a lot of good loot in the slimes. And now we have the underground city. So if the players enjoy the pyramid adventure, the DM may want to create further adventures near the lost city. Such adventures could take place in the underground city or in the desert wilderness surrounding around the pyramid. A map of the underground city is provided for the DM, and its most important features are briefly described. Suggestions for additional adventures are given at the end of this section. Alright, so let's go look at the picture. Well, there is some more box text. After the pyramid has been completely explored, the DM and players may want to have a special series of adventures in the underground city. Oh, okay, this is not really box text, but it's just a note. The following suggestions all have a common goal: the rebuilding of the Sanidasian civilization by the player characters. These adventures are intended to require many different styles of play, so the DM and players can try different approaches to the game. For simple dungeon adventures, the DM can always open new tunnels to other catacomb areas. Yeah, so that's, and that's a neat note. I think people, forget sometimes that even these older modules, they would speak to, hey, there are different things to do. It doesn't all have to be dungeon crawling. You can have social play. You can get into domain play as you get up levels. And a scenario like this, as you're trying to rebuild a civilization, gives you a chance to really engage with a bunch of different styles of playing, however you want to. I'll just read through a couple of these further adventure ideas. 1 is uniting the Sanidasians. 2, it's destroying Zargon's horn. 3 is some kind of the party's ambushed by priests of Zargon. You could try to raid the temple of Zargon. There is a prophecy. There is an antidote that is found for the dreamlike rapture of the Sanidasians. The true king. The bloodlines of Alexander Zenobia did not die out, and there's an heir somewhere, and there's also just trying to get out of the desert. So you have some ideas there, and they all kind of hit on different notes. Here we get some new monsters. I'm not going to go through them, just mention them in brief. We got the Banshee. We have the Sanidasians, who all their crazy costumes and their dream states, and they give us a nice list of, 11? Why 11? Why? I feel like 12 would have been nice, just because it fits nicely with a D12 to roll. We got some encounter ideas for them. We got the Werefox, Lycanthropes, and the Polymar. And then we got our glossary, and we got some ready-to-play characters. And the Ye Fast Pack, which I like, where you can just give some folks some different packs. And here we get, finally, in the PDF, we get the maps. And then we're at the end. So let me give some final thoughts here on reading it through. It really kind of is an interesting setup, right? This Lost City. It's got a sort of a main adventure, and then it has this area that you can explore further. I think the interesting thing about the main adventure is if you stop before going into the expanded adventures, there isn't much of a resolution. You kind of come down, you explore the levels of the pyramid that are open to you. You get to the tombs, and then it's just kind of, that's it. It would be nice if there was not a bridge between the expanded adventures and the shorter main adventure, because that is there. As you can, as the GM, you just open up the passageways or make them passable, and then they can get down in the further adventures. But I think there's a benefit for, if you're going to look at it, is you have a short adventure, which Zargon figures in only indirectly, and that you're going to run across some Zargon graffiti and some other traces of Zargon. But I don't think you even, in the random monsters, or the wandering monsters, I don't think you even run into his clergy. But you have kind of hints about Zargon. Zargon himself is in this expanded edition, or the expanded adventures part of the module. So what then becomes your goal in this first part? It would be nice if you had some kind of goal. Maybe it could be defeating, I think I mentioned at the beginning of the last part, which this should have been one video, but I streamed, but I had to split in two because I had an internet issue. I mentioned at the beginning of part 2, if you go back and look at it, that I thought it was interesting that the module doesn't give you a compelling reason to go find Zargon. You can, and you might get there by hook or by crook if you just explore enough, but there's nothing driving you to do it. And I mentioned that maybe there was a magical storm that was holding you in the Lost City. The storm in the desert pulls you in, but it's not just a regular storm that goes away. It makes it impossible for you to get out. How do you get out? You could say, okay, my original idea was, hey, you get out by defeating Zargon. Zargon, or his high priests who you would encounter near Zargon, keep the storm through some kind of spell, ritual, whatever, keep the storm going. So you get rid of them. The storm falls, now you can leave. But now looking at it and saying, okay, if Zargon is this goal that you might not get to because it's in this expanded section, you maybe want to run it shorter, maybe there's a priest or that ritual is at the end of the shorter adventure, that they're down on that in that last level of the pyramid that's got the tombs in it. Maybe that's where they're headquartered. You could take them down, which will bring the storm down, which let you leave. But that also opens up this other thing of, well, you've taken down this priesthood or this priest or cult of Zargon, but there's more. And now it's, they've become more, you get the idea, maybe they're going to become more desperate now, or maybe that's something else is happening with that cult that's further down. And the party has a choice. They can just, great, we've knocked these guys out, we've taken the storm, but what maybe have we angered down below, or at least that becomes an option. So I would have liked if there'd been just a stronger kind of through line of, hey, why are we here? Because if it's just to get resources, we can get resources pretty early on and then just bail out. So why are we continuing to go down? And yes, you can always just say, hey, it's for treasure, hey, it's for adventure. Absolutely. And those are fine motivations, but I think it's always nice to have something driving it, even if it is just as a one-shot. It's just something pushing the player, something, it gives them something to ask folks about, right? If they recognize it's a magical storm, then when they meet these factions, these different groups, they can then ask them, hey, there's a storm, a magical storm happening. It doesn't make sense. Why is it happening? Then those factions give them directions to tell the players. It just focuses their efforts, which I would have appreciated. But it's a really cool space. It's different than some of the other things that if other adventures that come before. So it's kind of hitting its own niche. It's in a different, we're in the desert, which is kind of a nice change. It definitely has I don't feel like from the descriptions that they went for going for ancient Egyptian in the kind of art style, but certainly in terms of mummification and pyramids and things like that, you can really draw on Egyptian lore if you want to kind of flesh things out. It does have some funhouse qualities with a lot of different creatures that are showing up, and it's really up to you as the GM if you want to kind of decide for yourself, why is there an owlbear here? Why is there a Thule here? Why are there white apes here? And those things that don't really fit a desert setting, but you can have fun with why. And of course, we know that there's this greater area that's kind of down further below where a lot of these things show up. So they could have brought up, they could have been domesticated. You could turn them into kind of undead versions of the creatures, as if like the ancient Egyptians did, buried a bunch of different animals with their, with the pharaohs. So maybe they got in that way. Have a lot of fun, but it was a great read. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, I apologize for having to split the stream in two, just sort of impromptu wise, but got hit by some technical issues. So thanks if you hung out there with me. If you have ideas or suggestions of what kind of modules you'd like to see me delve into next, then let me know in the comments or on Twitter, wherever you can find me. As usual, give a thumbs up if you enjoyed it and subscribe to the channel if you like this stuff. That's all I got for now. Have a great rest of your day if you're on the stream, or if not, whenever you're watching or listening to this later. I will talk to you later. Have a great day.